All right, welcome everybody to another edition of Prep Sports Now. It's Ray Brewer and a new co-host today, Danny Webster here from the Sun. Danny's been doing some of the phoners with us on Friday night. He's subbing for Case, who is covering the Raiders game for us this week and knee deep in preview stuff. Danny, this is a huge event in your journalistic career. We've been doing the show for 14 or 15 years. It's been hosted initially by me and a guy named Steve Silver, who's now running for mayor of Portland, Maine.
I heard about
and
that,
he pissed off the entire Overton Mesquite area and picked the game to end 1-0 because he was just one of those guys always looking for a fight. And then it's been Case and I pretty much nonstop, but Grimala's helped out along the way. So good times there. So pretty cool company for you to join me to talk a little bit about high school football. I will let everybody know Danny's a Coronado graduate.
Yeah.
So he's got some favoritism possibly coming in.
To be fair, I got more favoritism for Sierra Vista than I do Coronado.
Why's that?
I started at Sierra Vista for 2 years.
Okay.
And then I went to Coronado. But the real SB has always been Sierra Vista. Let's get that.
Okay. Well, there you go. So he's a huge Sierra Vista fan. So a lot going on. Of course, Danny knew about kind of the teams in town, Gorman, Liberty, Arbor View, before coming here, but he's had a chance to get to meet and talk to a lot of the other programs along the way. And we're talking prep football. We're ready to roll. We're going to have a great show.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of surprises, I think, so far this year. I think even though we're relatively early into the season, there's been a lot of interesting teams that have gotten off to good starts. I think a lot of teams that, we went into this year not expecting them to be. But I think things are kind of looking up for some of these upstart programs right now.
Yeah, and I would say that last week was kind of an eye-opener for me. I'm a big name on the front of the jersey type of guy. So, like, if the Yankees were going to play the Pirates, for example, every day, I would pick the Yankees because it's the Yankees versus the Pirates, right? So this week, there's a game in the 3A, Moapa Valley against Slam, right? Moapa Valley's been around since the 1920s. Slam is like in its third or fourth year.
Yeah.
Slam, for all intents and purposes, is the better team.
Yeah.
But it's Moapa Valley.
Right.
So how could you kind of pick against Moapa Valley? And then we saw last week, Moapa played Boulder City in the Thursday night game, and it came down to the buzzer, and Moapa Valley pulled it out.
Yeah.
And then Virgin Valley went to Pahrump, got delayed 90 minutes getting there, and barely ended up winning.
Yeah.
So maybe my theories aren't as good as possible. And then I was wrong on one game last week. Your school, Sierra Vista, even though you don't have a diploma from there, at Sunrise Mountain, Sierra Vista went and won by, it was like 54-14 or some ungodly amount of points. And now Sierra Vista plays Silverado this week.
So that adds a whole lot of intrigue, especially with how dominant they were last year. And going back to Slam, it was a couple of weeks ago. They were against Palo a couple of weeks ago. And I think it was a 1-point game or something like that. Slam took them all the way down to the wire, and even Palo said after the game, we didn't deserve to win that game. So I think at this point, no matter who's playing who, there's bound to be some good matchups everywhere.
Yeah, and that was 5A Palo Verde against 3A Slam Academy. And we saw when Slam came through for our media day, we were like, oh my gosh, who are these three kids? I mean, they were all like, oh my God, you're in the 3A with these three guys?
Yeah.
But, it comes down to a lot of it's going to come down to resources. You get into a game where Slam's got a limited amount of coaches, where Moapa Valley's got an army of coaches who've been there forever, running the same plays. And I think that balances out a little bit. I mean, ultimately, football's who's got the Jimmies and Joes, or all sports, who's got the Jimmies and Joes. But I think Moapa Valley has got some elite coaching, or just has more resources to go into a matchup with anybody. We saw it a few years ago when Desert Pines and Moapa was in the same league. Desert Pines had just a great roster of Division I guys, even a guy, Tony Fields, who's in the NFL, and they would go play Moapa, and it'd be an absolute back and forth, great game. But position by position, Moapa Valley had RJ Hubert, and Desert Pines had like 11 D1 guys, and it was still really a close game.
Yeah.
So, Polynesian Football Classic is this week, and Bishop Gorman is playing
Hamilton.
And that's like, so last year, Gorman's lone loss, and remember, if Gorman goes undefeated, they're getting votes to be the national champions. Mm-hmm. So Gorman's lone loss was to Hamilton, and they were up by like 18 or 19 points with a minute to go, and they gave up touchdown, 2-point conversion, onside kick, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Next thing you know, game's on ESPN.
Yeah.
So it was a little, I don't want to use the word embarrassing, but the bear's been poked, and Gorman's ready to go. Polynesian Classic is always fun. Just, you're in for a good night when you pull up into the parking lot and there's a bunch of people there barbecuing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like, okay, and you're sitting there the whole time, and I'm a guy that could lose about 20, and you're just sitting there and you could smell the food going on during the game. You're like, okay, somebody's gonna have to give me a hamburger. Let's get going. So I'm interested in the Polynesian Classic. Love the culture. Love the Hawaiian, Polynesian. I'm not a good music identifier, but music in the background and the culture, and the fact that we've got Gorman going for redemption, I think is really cool. And then Arborview, who I think has its best team ever this year, plays on Saturday against Mountain Point, and Arborview is very close to breaking through. They've got a wide receiver, David Washington, who a lot of people feel is the best junior in town. They're slinging the ball around well. They had a bye last week, but they had a game set with Santa Margarita, which is a top 40 team. Santa Margarita pulled out. So I love how Arborview is challenging teams from around the region and trying to build its brand, because the only way to beat Gorman is to kind of mimic what they do and play that national schedule. As much as I hate to say it, because every Friday night's meaningful and I've kind of built my career on it, right? If you don't get up to Gorman's level, the regular season becomes like a scrimmage.
Yeah.
Right? It's, it's okay. Everybody's going to lose to Gorman and Liberty, and Gorman and Liberty are going to play to win state.
Right.
So I love how like an Arborview or a Desert Pines, which by the way, hasn't given up a point in 2 weeks, shut out Legacy and shut up Canyon Springs. They're kind of trying to play the best of the best to get there to play Gorman. Liberty, Utah 2 weeks ago, San Diego last week, Texas this week.
Yeah.
In 2019, Danny, when they won state, they played a national schedule. They were 0-5. Then they came back and they beat everybody, including Gorman. So don't count out Liberty is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to Arborview real quick, I that was one of the interesting points when I was writing about their game a couple of weeks ago. And I mentioned, they intentionally put Gorman on their schedule this year to see where they stack up against Gorman. I think that game is next week or even the week after.
First league game for Arborview, get it out of the way.
Yeah, and that's what they wanted. They wanted to get it out of the way first, and they just wanted to see where they stack up against Gorman. And that's the best team that they've had in forever or of all time of that school. Not a bad way to get through this week and then get ready for what will probably be the biggest game of that regime's run so far.
Have you heard of the Gorman hangover?
I have not.
That's a theory that I have, that whenever you play Gorman, you lose by a running clock. And then the next week you're like, okay, well, the writing's on the wall. We're never going to beat these guys. And, so it's good to lose to them in the first game of league, because then by the time the playoffs roll around, you feel that you've gotten better and you have this renewed confidence that you maybe could compete with them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Sports is all, forget about high school football. Even like U7 soccer, my Henderson Crush team, it's all mental.
Yeah.
Right. You see another team, like when I coach my little Pee Wee soccer team, our warm-ups are the best warm-ups in the history of youth soccer. Because I want the other team and coach to say, oh gosh, we're playing this team that's organized. Yeah, we suck just like every other team, but mentally they don't think they could beat us.
Yeah.
And that's how it is when you play Gorman. Mentally, with the exception of Liberty, there's not many people that think they got a chance to go and beat them.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you want to get to the picks?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right, let me pull them up because I don't want to contradict myself. But
all right.
You play Case and you tell me who you like and we'll go from there. How's that?
All right.
Or you tell me the game, I'll tell you who I like, and you tell me if you think it's different.
Okay. Well, we'll start with the Thursday big Henderson matchup, the rivalry that I think kind of defines Henderson High School's Coronado and Green Valley. Coronado off to a 2-0 start. They've kind of dominated early on. I think it was like a 50-0 win against Clark last week off their bye. And now they go to Green Valley, which I think is always a tough game.
Okay.
And Coronado, I think, is in one of those interesting predicaments where they probably haven't played the competition that you would want them to see where they stack in their class right now. But I think given how they responded against Clark last time out and just how they dominated them with not a lot of film to go off of, I think Coronado is definitely primed to have a much better year this year. And I think it's going to be tough, but I think they can go into Green Valley and win by a touchdown. I think that's going to work.
Okay, well, I think Green Valley, who is lost literally to the school that LeBron James's kids play for and traveled in California, is in a totally different class.
Yeah.
I think Coronado is beat up on some Little Sisters of the Poor, and I have Green Valley winning, but the game's going to be on TV, so we'll all get to see it, and I'll correct you and everybody. I'll scold Danny later. He doesn't know the most important game in Henderson is Henderson Bowl, Green Valley Basic,
Okay.
in my opinion.
No. I mean,
but I will scold him later because he's got a diploma from Coronado hanging on the wall.
That's the thing. Like when you go to Coronado, the only school you know is Green Valley for one reason or another. That's the only one you care about. When I was going there, when I graduated in 2010, you really didn't know much about basic. You really didn't know.
Did you play football?
No.
Did you want to play football?
I did, but then I realized it got really hot outside during the summer, and I didn't want to do
it. Okay. Okay.
But I think just the way. Also, the big thing with Coronado, they're going to get their injured guys back. Coach Fred Bolitnikoff told me last week that there are 9 guys on academic ineligibility that will be back for this game as well. So they're going to get a bit more of a full roster and a little bit more of a healthy roster this time as well. So I think that might actually play into their advantage.
Okay.
Well, we'll see. All right, we go to Friday, and we kind of touched on it. Hamilton going to Bishop Gorman. Tough loss a couple weeks ago for Gorman at home. You were at that game, obviously.
Tough loss.
Tough loss. They up by a touchdown, and they ended up.
They were up 21-7, and then gave up 17 unanswered to lose the game. And I mean, of course, modern day defending national champs, but that was a tough loss. And again, like I said earlier, it's rare that Gorman has a game, Danny, scheduled circled on their schedule.
Yeah.
And I expect this to be a thorough butt kicking.
Yeah. I think the way they went to Hawaii and beat that team last week as well, I think coming back home with that crowd, that's definitely going to fire them up. And I agree with you.
That's a great point. See, he's coming with great points. It's tough to travel to Hawaii for college teams.
Yeah. And
even though St. Louis is down a little bit, Gorman went over there last week and completely destroyed them. My guy Micah Alejado threw for 5 TDs. So we both have the Gales. Next game. This is a fun one because I was torn on it.
All right. Bakersfield Christian, based in California, going against Faith Lutheran off to a 3-0 start with Coach Mike Sanford.
So I love, first of all, Faith has got a kicker who's really good.
Probably coached by Nolan Cohorst.
He is, who's also really good. I love what Mike's done at Faith. Year one last year, which was kind of year two, but we had the COVID year. They really they didn't get off to a great start and they kind of struggled. But this year they're 3-0. They're, the quarterback around Walter is throwing the ball around. They're doing good. Bakersfield Christian, coached by the Carr brothers.
Oh.
And they've got a little rivalry with they've played Faith multiple times. This is going to be a really good game. I like that it's at Faith, and I'm picking Faith by a field goal. But this could be the close game of the week.
Yeah, I think when you're off to that strong start and you welcome in a team from out of state, I think there might, I don't know if nerves or jitters might be the right words, but Faith is putting together a really strong program over there, and I think getting off to this strong start, I think, kind of puts them in good position to win this game against an out-of-state team. So I'm right there with you. I think it'll be close. I think probably a 3-point game, somewhere around there.
All right. Our next game, Liberty at, I can't even say that. Texas. Yes.
Atascosa, Texas.
So prior to 2016, if you would have said any Nevada team at Texas, I would have taken Texas.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been the Raiders at the Cowboys.
Yeah.
UNLV at TCU, or Liberty at Atacama, whatever, Texas. But Gorman in 2016 won in Texas. And then Liberty with Kenyon Oblad came 2 weeks later and beat a top 10 team in Texas. Mm-hmm. So not impossible, especially for a team like Liberty that experienced traveling out of town. They should have won in Utah, had a lot of penalties, had a chance to win the game at the buzzer. This was 2 weeks ago, stopped at the goal line. Last week, laid an egg. A lot of uncharacteristic mistakes. Offense couldn't, the mistakes were all over. Had a bad game in a bad spot. So now I expect them to be improved, but there's no way they're winning in Texas.
Yeah, that's tough. I think I don't want to say their Liberty's confidence is shot. I mean, we're talking about a group that is one of the strongest in the state, and I think eventually once league play rolls around, they're going to bounce back fine. But I look at how they're kind of stacking the deck early on against these tough teams from out of state. And like you said, when you go to Texas or when you play a Texas team, it's a completely different ballgame. And for that state, it doesn't matter if it's, 2A, 3A, 4A, it doesn't matter. All those teams can.
I love how innocent you are. Like so the nasty secret here is that nobody's going to beat Gorman or Liberty except Gorman and Liberty.
Yeah.
So we're in the 4A, nobody's going to beat Silverado.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm 46-6. It's not because I've got some crystal ball.
Right.
It's because everybody and their mother knows Liberty's not losing to any local team.
Right.
Like they'll come and play Green Valley in week 1 and it'll be like they're playing you and me.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I've got the Texas team. I don't know.
I do too.
Okay.
A couple scores.
Okay.
Yeah. Next we got Clayton Valley, based in California, going against Canyon Springs. Tough start, I would say, for Canyon Springs to this season, and Clayton Valley, a strong team in California.
Yeah. So Clayton Valley beat Canyon in the 2019 season. Canyon started off with a win at home. Didn't score the next week against Desert Pines. Has been on a bye. They're going to struggle. I don't think. I mean, it's not going to be a blowout, but I don't think they're winning this game.
Yeah, I think when you look at how, just again, struggling start for Canyon Springs, I don't see them hanging around. I think Clayton Valley will probably win by a couple of scores as well. We got Shadow Ridge and Hallow this week.
So Shadow had a great experience last week in Flagstaff. They played in the showcase thing in Northern Arizona. It's cooler there. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that
it was like
cold.
60 degrees.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a +10 here. We were just talking about the heat, and they really started to run the ball. So Shadow Ridge has got that misdirection, blah, blah, blah. I don't see Palo stopping the rushing attack. I got Shadow big.
Yeah, same. Again, that I don't want to discredit what Slam did a couple weeks ago, but I feel like just that game itself has kind of put a bad taste in Palo's mouth, and I feel like Shadow Ridge definitely has a chance to run all over them a little bit with that running game and probably win by a huge margin. So I'll go Shadows also. Speaking of Slam Academy, we touched on earlier, Moapa Valley. Probably have to think one of the games of the week, right?
I would say this is the game, I think, of the week. So Slam doesn't have a field, so they play all their games at El Dorado. Again, this is just like Slam probably has the better players. Moapa Valley just has more. They've got a complete program with kids who've been around for a while. Going to be a great game. I don't think I've picked against Moapa Valley in years. So nothing's going to end here. I got Moapa Valley.
Same. I'll take Moapa Valley. I agree. I think it's probably going to be a very close game, and I think Slam will hang around and keep it close until the end. Boulder City at Western. I feel like this is probably going to be a one-sided thing this week.
Yeah, Boulder almost beat Moapa on that Thursday night game. Western got its win against Pinecrest, which Western's only had a handful of wins over the last decade. Yeah. And Jesse Daly, the Western coach, the Cincinnati kid, got the Raiders High School Football Player of the Week award. So that's awesome for them. And you get a grand for the program. So that's even better. But I think Boulder City's got to go a far way to get a win, but they're going to get it done.
Yeah, I think so. I think Boulder City is just the cream of the crop when it comes to that, and I think they'll probably handle Western fairly easily. Basic and Shap.
Oh, heartbreaker. I went to Shap. Back when I was a kid, Shap Basic was a cool little rivalry. Basic is 3-0. They're actually really, 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 really good this year. They went up to Carson last week, had a great performance. I told everybody at the beginning of the year that I think Basic is going to be back. Cahill has been there he's probably the second longest tenured coach in town. Him and Morocco are like neck and neck. I don't know who's who, right? But Cahill runs a really great offense. Basic's playing good right now, and they're going to go into Shap and they're going to kick my Cowboys up and down the field.
Basic, I think, took a really big step last week after they started the year in Desert Oasis, won that game 14-0. Defense looked great, but Cahill even said that there were a lot of mistakes that they had to clean up. That game could have been 35-7, 42-7, whatever the case may be. And obviously, since then, they've cleaned things up and they look really good. So I'm right there with you. I think Basic, unfortunately for you, will beat Shap by at least a couple scores. Legacy and Centennial, very interesting one here. Seems like might be a low-scoring one.
Two teams looking for their first win. I've had of my 6 losses, 2 of them have been Centennial. I've had a higher opinion of Centennial than most. Saw Centennial play Foothill last week. First quarter, returned a punt for a touchdown, called back for a hold. Next thing you know, they're down 20-something-0.
Yeah.
They rallied. They won the second half 15-7, played a lot better, but Centennial's got a far, far way to go. But I do think they're a little bit ahead of Legacy, who didn't score last week.
Yeah. I like to think that maybe it's like baby steps trying to get back to the winning ways. So I'm right there with you. I think Centennial will bounce back and get themselves a win here. Bonanza and Clark, 2 teams that have seemingly gotten, I guess, shellacked would be a good word to start the year. but Clark, I think, probably in the better position for this one.
Yeah, they are. Clark's more ahead of Bonanza, so Clark wins.
Yeah, Clark by 3 scores. I think that's a good one. Foothill and Desert Pines. Desert Pines has just been ridiculous. I think you touched on that earlier, just how good they've been defensively. And going against Foothill, and they're at home. Desert Pines looks really strong so far.
Yeah, Desert Pines. The thing that's most impressive, well, a few things here. I got to give some shout outs. So, first off, forget about the Desert Pines defense, which I don't know if it's good or if it's a product of who they were playing, but obviously, shout out to them. But what about Desert Pines has got 3 freshmen, all of whom scored touchdowns. Isaiah Nichols, Trey Jackson, and Messiah Mingo all had touchdowns. Greg Burrell, the running back, also scored. So shout out to them. I have them beating Foothill big because Desert Pines is really good. I will tell you, though, real fast, was at the Foothill game. My daughter danced at the halftime show.
Hey.
Second grader.
There you go.
Big time. Really impressed with Ryan Perkins, a wide receiver for Foothill. Basketball player, first year playing football. Probably miscast. He should probably be a football player, wide receiver. Very impressed with his athleticism. And I'm interested to see how he performs against enhanced competition at Desert Pines.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that'll be a good test. I think Desert Pines will probably build off what they've done. That might not be as dominant as what they've done, but I think they'll get it done as well. Cimarron and Durango, really strong start for Durango. Kind of surprising as well.
Yeah, Durango's 3-1. And here's this, or maybe 2-1. But here's a chance for them to win again. Cimarron hasn't won yet. Lost to your Coronado Cougars, who you have beaten Green Valley. And Vegas handled them pretty easy last week with a freshman quarterback. Durango continues to roll. And shout out to, who's the name of their quarterback? It's on the picks.
Maverick Cormier.
God, that guy's been great this year for him. So shout out to Maverick Cormier.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Durango, usually they haven't had a lot of success in a long time, and they kind of get off a good 4-1 start would be good for that program. So I'll take Durango as well. Desert Oasis and Spring Valley. Spring Valley, again, another one off to a great start, and Desert Oasis kind of finding its groove with a new quarterback. Southwest side of things, this might be one of the best games of the week, too.
So I was impressed with Desert Oasis last week. They played a team from Arizona that traveled really, really well. A 6A team from Arizona that probably had more people. Coach Teal didn't tell me this, but I'm adding one-on-one together. There was probably more people at the Spring Valley game cheering for the other team at Spring Valley than Spring Valley.
Wow.
A team from Gilbert, Arizona called Perry. And 6A team, really good. And they come out and smack Spring Valley in the mouth real quick. And Spring Valley didn't fold. They kept it close. End up losing 19-14, but they got the moral victory. And I think that kind of carries over to this week. So I've got the Grizzlies against the Diamondbacks. But if you're asking me to rank my confidence, this is the least confident I am all week.
Yeah, I think the way Spring Valley has kind of started this season, I think they kind of want to punch other teams in the mouth. And, you know, when you go against a team like that is willing to punch back, maybe they're not quite there yet. But I like the way they've started. I think they can go up against Desert Oasis as well.
Okay.
And get a win at home. Mojave and Las Vegas should be a fun one, I think, as far as this matchup should be fun.
Yeah, shout out to Vegas last week. Their starting quarterback was injured. They went with 2 backups, both of them with the same first name. What are the odds of that? And it wasn't John. right? And they got to win. The Kitty Cats, remember, were in the semifinals of the 4A last year, and they bring back a lot. So shout out to the Tanners who got Vegas the victory. They went against the Mojave team that's undefeated.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. Sierra Vista and Silverado.
Nobody's beaten Silverado. They're Gorman.
Yeah, that's about right.
And they got the best player in Donovan Pellet.
Yes. And let's see, I think we got a couple more here. We got Sunrise Mountain and Lomond in Utah.
I don't care who Sunrise Mountain's playing. If they got to go to Utah to play them, they're losing.
Right. And the last one, the Polynesian Classic, Mountain Point and Arborview. At the
huge spot for Arborview to make a statement regionally. If they get the win, I think that's a program builder. I got the Aggies coming in hungry off the bye week.
I like Arborview too, just the way that their confidence is growing. I like them too.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So this is Prep Sports Now for Ray and Danny. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.